Hello, my ladies of inestimable value. Fear is the leash the world uses to walk you. If you're still wearing it, you're not free. Most people grip that leash so tightly they don't even notice it's choking them. Fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of being alone in a room where no one claps for them. Science even backs it up. Studies show your brain reacts to social exclusion the same way it reacts to physical pain. That's why most people will twist themselves into emotional pretzels just to fit in. But here's where Sigma females break the mold. They've already chewed through the leash, spat out the collar, and are halfway across the field while everyone else is still waiting for permission to run. They don't just manage fear. Half the things that paralyze others don't even register on their radar. And if you're imagining them as some fearless superhero, think again. They feel fear. They just treat it like spam email. Read the subject line, smirk, and hit delete. Today, we're diving into 12 things that make most people sweat, panic, and compromise themselves. But Sigma females walk through them like it's just Tuesday. Number 1. Thriving in emotional ambiguity. Most people can't stand emotional ambiguity. The second they don't know where someone stands, they scramble for labels, explanations, and confirmation. They'll text too soon, overthink every pause in a conversation, or replay an interaction until they've assigned it a meaning, any meaning, just to feel safe. This need for emotional clarity is hardwired. The brain hates uncertainty because it feels like danger. But Sigma females don't panic in that space. They can live inside the fog of, I don't fully know, without rushing to turn the light on. For them, ambiguity isn't weakness. It's a neutral zone where the truth can show itself without being forced. They understand that the second you demand a definition, you distort the reality. Press someone to define their feelings too soon, and you don't get the truth. You get whatever answer will make you stop asking. Sigma females are patient enough to let the real answer grow on its own, even if that takes days, months, or longer. That's because they aren't addicted to emotional certainty. Most people need to label every connection so they can figure out where to place it in their mental filing cabinet. Sigma females don't keep such a rigid cabinet. They allow relationships, situations, and emotions to exist in their raw, unpolished form. This unnerves others who want things settled. But for them, life isn't about neat resolutions. It's about accurate ones. They also know that ambiguity can be a kind of shield. When you don't over-explain yourself or force others to, you maintain a kind of freedom. People can't weaponize what they can't pin down. If someone is unsure about how you feel, they can't predict how you'll act, and that unpredictability can be a quiet advantage. While others burn themselves out chasing closure or pushing for declarations, Sigma females let things reveal themselves naturally. If something or someone is meant to be part of their life, it will prove itself without pressure. If it's not, time will make that clear. There's no frantic need to grip what hasn't earned a place yet. It's not that they don't care. It's that they refuse to let the discomfort of not knowing drive them into bad decisions. They trust the fog. And because of that, they rarely walk into traps disguised as answers. Number 2. Disappointing people who expect access. Most people live in quiet fear of disappointing others, especially those who've gotten used to having easy access to them. They'll say yes when they mean no, stretch themselves thin, and keep the door open just to avoid the awkward sting of someone's letdown. But Sigma females don't play that game. They see disappointment not as some catastrophic failure, but as a predictable side effect of having boundaries, and they're fine with it. The truth is, access is addictive. Once people get used to your time, energy, or presence being on tap, they start to believe it's a right rather than a privilege. The moment you pull back, they feel deprived, even wronged. That's when most people panic and give in, because they confuse someone's disappointment with evidence that they've done something bad. Sigma females know better. They understand that someone being upset doesn't automatically mean you've made the wrong choice. They've learned that their energy is a finite resource, not an endless supply for anyone who asks. If giving access comes at the cost of their peace, focus, or self-respect, the answer is no, without guilt. They're not cruel about it, but they're unapologetic. They understand that boundaries are like fences. They are there to protect what matters, not to make everyone else comfortable. This refusal to overextend themselves often earns them labels like selfish or cold, especially from those who benefited most when their time was unrestricted. But Sigma females are comfortable with those misunderstandings. They know that people who truly value them will adapt, while those who only valued the open access will eventually drift away. And that's not a loss, it's a sorting process. By accepting disappointment as an inevitable reaction to saying no, Sigma females keep their lives uncluttered by resentment and obligation. They'd rather let someone feel temporarily let down than live with the slow burn of resentment that comes from constantly sacrificing themselves. And that's why their yes actually means something, because it's never given out of fear, only out of choice. Number 3, the loss of a social lifeline. Most people hold on tightly to social circles, even when those circles drain them, because the idea of being without a network feels like social death. They tolerate shallow conversations, forced smiles, and performative friendships just to avoid the sting of isolation. It's not that they enjoy these dynamics. They fear what it says about them if they are not plugged in somewhere. Being alone feels like proof of failure, so they keep showing up to rooms that give them nothing but noise. Sigma females operate on a different frequency. They don't just risk losing a social lifeline, they willingly cut it themselves if it starts to feel like a leash. If the only thing holding a group together is habit, convenience, or the fear of being alone, they'll walk away without hesitation. They'd rather endure a period of raw, unfiltered silence than keep trading pieces of themselves for inclusion in a circle that isn't real. This isn't because they don't value connection. They do, but only when it's genuine. They know that staying in the wrong crowd doesn't protect you from loneliness, it amplifies it. There's a unique kind of emptiness that comes from being surrounded by people who don't truly see you, and Sigma females would rather face solitude head-on than live in that hollow space. They also understand that when you rely on a social lifeline for your sense of identity, you become easy to control. The fear of losing that lifeline keeps you compliant, keeps you tolerating things you'd never accept otherwise. Sigma females have no interest in being kept in line through fear of exile. By cutting their own cords, they take back the power that comes from not needing anyone to keep them afloat. Once they're out, they don't scramble to replace what they left behind. They sit with the quiet. They allow the empty space to teach them what and who actually matters. And when they do choose to connect again, it's not because they're desperate to belong. It's because the connection feels solid, mutual, and real. For them, the lifeline isn't the point. The truth is, and if that means drifting in their own current for a while, they'll take that over, clinging to a rope that's already fraying. Number 4, having no witness to their struggles. Most people need their struggles seen to believe they matter. They want someone to notice the late nights, the sacrifices, the quiet endurance. Without that witness, the weight of their effort feels heavier, almost pointless. They crave validation not just for the victory, but for the fight itself. Proof that they've been through something worthy of recognition. Sigma females don't need that kind of spotlight. They've learned to stand in the middle of the storm without an audience, knowing that the value of their struggle doesn't depend on who's watching. They don't require applause to keep going because their fuel isn't external. It's the internal standard they've set for themselves. The satisfaction comes from knowing they didn't fold, even when nobody would have known if they did. Fighting invisible battles is second nature to them. They know that announcing every hardship invites two things: pity from people who can't help, and judgment from people who don't care. Both are distractions. By keeping their struggles private, they protect their energy and avoid giving others the chance to use their vulnerabilities as leverage. When a Sigma female wins, the world might not even notice. There's no grand reveal. No victory speech, no crowd to cheer. The victory lives in the subtle but powerful shift inside her, knowing she overcame something that could have broken her, and she did it on her own terms. This private strength unsettles others because it can't be measured by the usual social metrics. They understand that being unseen during hardship isn't a punishment, it's a freedom. It means they're not performing resilience for an audience, not curating their pain to be palatable or inspiring. They can feel their emotions fully without worrying how they look from the outside. Sigma females move like this because they trust the truth. The absence of a witness doesn't make the fight less real, and the absence of applause doesn't make the win less valuable. They don't fight for validation. They fight because it's necessary. And when the dust settles, they don't need the world to know they survived. The fact that they did is enough. Number 5. Shattering their own image. Most people cling to a consistent persona like it's life support. They spend years crafting an image, how they talk, what they believe, how they're perceived, and once it's set, they protect it at all costs. Even when that image becomes outdated or suffocating, they hold on to it because it's familiar. Changing too much, too fast, risks unsettling others, and for most, that's terrifying. Sigma females don't operate under that fear. They see identity as something fluid, not a fixed monument to be guarded. If a version of themselves stops serving their growth, they'll dismantle it, sometimes abruptly, even in the middle of a conversation. They won't drag out the change, offer disclaimers, or ease people into it. One day they're speaking from one perspective, and the next they've discarded it entirely, without apology. This unnerves people who rely on predictability to feel secure. Watching someone shift that quickly challenges the idea that you should always be the same person you've always been. But Sigma females aren't interested in staying consistent for other people's comfort. Consistency without evolution is just self-imprisonment in a prettier cell. They've mastered the art of letting go before the old self starts rotting. This ability comes from a deep trust in their own adaptability. They know they can rebuild, and rebuild well, without needing external approval. Their sense of self isn't tied to how others remember them. It's tied to whether they're living in alignment with who they are right now. Shattering an old identity isn't just about growth. It's also a way of keeping control. The longer you wear one face, the easier it is for others to predict, contain, or manipulate you. By changing, they keep that advantage. No one gets comfortable enough to assume they've figured them out. To most, this looks reckless or unstable. But to a Sigma female, it's just shedding the skin that no longer fits. They refuse to drag around outdated versions of themselves for nostalgia's sake. If a change needs to happen, they'll strike the match, burn the old image to the ground, and start building the next chapter, without looking back to see who's still watching. Number 6. Cutting ties without a grand explanation. Most people can't end a relationship, friendship, or alliance without staging a full-blown performance. They feel they owe the other person a speech, an essay, or at least a dramatic monologue to justify their exit. They'll write paragraphs explaining themselves, trying to soften the blow, even when the other person already knows why it's over. Sigma females don't carry that burden. If they've decided you no longer belong in their space, the decision is the explanation. It's not about cruelty, it's about efficiency. They understand that when someone's actions, patterns, or energy have made the connection unlivable, the reality is already obvious. Dragging it out with a long explanation often turns into an invitation for the other person to debate the decision, defend themselves, or manipulate the outcome. Sigma females aren't interested in opening that door once they've decided to close it. They also know that explanations are rarely received as intended. The more you say, the more ammunition you hand to someone who wants to twist your words or pull you back into the dynamic you're escaping. Some people don't want closure, they want another chance to convince you to stay. By skipping the speech, Sigma females remove the stage for that performance. This doesn't mean they vanish without thought or compassion. It means they trust that their withdrawal speaks louder than any carefully chosen words ever could. Silence, in their world, is a full sentence. The act of walking away communicates, "I've evaluated this, I've made my choice, and I'm not seeking your permission to leave." To most people, this approach feels heartless because they confuse detachment with a lack of feeling. The truth is, Sigma females often feel deeply, but they've learned that preserving their mental and emotional well-being is worth enduring the labels others throw at them. They accept that not everyone will understand or agree with how they leave. The door closing is the message. There's no memo, no soft landing, no performance. And if the other person still doesn't get it, that only proves the exit was overdue. Number 7. Turning down power they don't want. Most people equate power with progress. If they're offered a position, title, or role that promises more influence, they take it, sometimes without even asking themselves if they actually want it. The fear of losing status or missing a once-in-a-lifetime chance keeps them saying yes, even when the cost is their peace, freedom, or integrity. Turning it down feels like career suicide, social regression, or an unforgivable waste of opportunity. Sigma females don't share that reflex. They know that not all power is created equal, and not all crowns are worth wearing. Some thrones are traps, places that look impressive from the outside but come with constant battles, politics, and compromises that quietly drain your soul. If a position demands more of their authenticity than they're willing to give, they'll reject it without flinching, no matter how prestigious it looks to others. This unnerves people who measure success purely by external symbols. A Sigma female could be offered the seat everyone else is fighting for and walk away without a second thought. It's not arrogance, it's discernment. They understand the difference between power that expands them and power that cages them. Their decision-making isn't swayed by the fear of how it will look. They don't need the validation of titles or the illusion of authority to feel significant. To them, the real power is in choosing where to place their time, energy, and presence. If taking the top role means sacrificing their autonomy, they see it as a downgrade, not a promotion. This ability to turn down power also protects them from being owned by it. Many people who accept positions out of status chasing find themselves bound by unspoken debts, expectations, and political alliances they didn't see coming. Sigma females avoid that by only stepping into roles that truly align with their values and desired lifestyle. To outsiders, their refusals can look reckless or wasteful. But those same outsiders often end up chained to roles they can't leave without losing everything. Sigma females would rather keep their freedom than inherit a throne that demands their captivity. For them, the real crown is the ability to walk away, head held high, neck unstrained. Number 8. Being seen as difficult. Most people will bend themselves into shapes they don't even recognize just to avoid being called difficult. They'll sugarcoat their opinions, nod along to things they don't agree with, and make themselves smaller so no one feels uncomfortable. The word difficult carries a sting because it's often used as social shorthand for hard to control. And for most, being hard to control feels risky. It can lead to being excluded, disliked, or labeled as a problem. Sigma females don't carry that fear. To them, being called difficult is often a sign they're hitting a nerve that needed hitting. It's proof they're being real in a world that rewards pretenders. They understand that the label usually says more about the person using it than about them. Fragile egos see boundaries, high standards, or independent thinking as obstacles, and when they can't manipulate those traits, they slap the difficult tag on them like a warning label. Sigma females wear that label like armor. It means they've refused to lower their voice just to keep someone comfortable. It means they've said no when yes would have been easier. It means they've stayed rooted in their truth even when it made someone else squirm. That's not dysfunction, it's integrity. They also know that avoiding the difficult label comes at a high cost. People who bend too easily to keep the peace end up being drained, used, and quietly resented for not standing for anything. Sigma females would rather be misunderstood for their firmness than respected for their compliance. They're not chasing universal approval. They're filtering for the people who can handle them as they are. The irony is, the people who call them difficult often circle back later, realizing the traits they once criticized are the same ones they now admire. But Sigma females don't wait around for that recognition. They're comfortable being the villain in someone's temporary story if it means staying the hero in their own. For them, difficult isn't an insult. It's a sign they're living without permission slips, unshaken, unapologetic, and untamed by the need to be liked. And they wouldn't trade that for a smoother reputation. Number 9. Letting people be wrong about them forever. Most people panic when someone misunderstands them. They scramble to clarify, justify, or rewrite the story to make sure their reputation stays intact. A single misperception can feel like a personal attack, and many will bend over backward, sometimes sacrificing dignity, just to be right in the eyes of others. They treat every false narrative like a fire that needs to be put out immediately. Sigma females don't play that game. They understand that truth isn't something you need to constantly defend. If someone chooses to believe a version of reality that paints them in a way they don't like, it's not their job to correct it. The false narrative will float around, sure, but they know it won't alter their core, and eventually it won't matter. They don't need everyone to see them clearly, just the people who matter. Allowing misunderstandings to exist takes a kind of patience and confidence most people don't have. It's not about indifference. It's about recognizing the futility of arguing with someone whose perception is limited by their own biases, insecurities, or agendas. Sigma females let those stories breathe because they're aware that trying to control how everyone sees them is a trap, a cage built from other people's expectations. There's also a quiet, strategic advantage. When people are busy chasing a version of the truth that doesn't exist, they reveal more about themselves than about her. Their assumptions, judgments, and insecurities become visible, leaving Sigma females free to observe without interference. In a sense, letting people be wrong about them forever acts as a natural filter, separating those who are worth attention from those who are not. They're not cold, they're deliberate. They know the right moment for confrontation is when it serves a purpose, not when someone's ego demands correction. Most of the time, no intervention is necessary. The truth carries itself in the long run. For Sigma females, the freedom to let others be wrong is liberating. It means they don't bend to save anyone's comfort, they conserve their energy, and they remain untethered to narratives that aren't theirs to control. While others obsess over perception, Sigma females keep moving forward, unbothered, unshakable, and wholly unconcerned with being understood by everyone. Number 10. Walking away from love that feels good but limits them. Most people stay in relationships long past their expiration date because comfort feels safer than the unknown. Even when a connection drains them or restricts their growth, they convince themselves that love is worth tolerating compromise. The fear of loneliness, of starting over, or of disappointing someone keeps them trapped in what feels familiar, even if it quietly suffocates them. Sigma females don't follow that pattern. They understand that love, no matter how sweet or comfortable, is not a justification for confinement. If a relationship limits their potential, forces them to shrink, or demands conformity that doesn't feel natural, they will walk away without hesitation. Comfort without freedom is a gilded cage, and they refuse to live in one, no matter how warm the bars feel. Walking away doesn't require dramatic confrontations or endless explanations. It's a quiet but absolute choice. Sigma females recognize that leaving is sometimes the most honest form of care, both for themselves and for the other person. Staying in a relationship out of fear or attachment only creates resentment, stagnation, and a slow erosion of identity. They avoid that trap entirely. They also know that the heart can feel contradictory. It can be full of affection while simultaneously recognizing a situation is unhealthy. Sigma females trust that internal compass. Feeling love does not obligate them to remain in a place where their wings are clipped. This willingness to leave challenges societal expectations. Others see love as something to hold on to at all costs, interpreting departure as failure or selfishness. Sigma females see it differently. Leaving is an act of clarity and courage. It is proof that they prioritize life lived fully over life lived comfortably. Once they walk away, they rarely look back. There's no nostalgia that can outweigh the freedom they've regained. The past relationship becomes a lesson, a memory, not a chain. For them, moving forward is not just an option, it's a rule they live by. The heart can heal, grow, and even love again, but never at the expense of self-sovereignty. They understand that love should elevate, not enclose. And if it doesn't, they leave, gracefully, decisively, and without regret. Number 11. Public silence when everyone is screaming opinions. Most people panic in a room full of noise. When everyone is shouting opinions, pushing agendas, and demanding reactions, the instinct is to join in, to be heard, to prove relevance, to stake a claim. Silence feels dangerous. Staying quiet feels like losing control, losing influence, or even losing identity. They worry that if they don't speak, people will forget them, dismiss them, or think they have nothing to contribute. Sigma females don't operate on that fear. They understand that volume does not equal value, and that the loudest voices are often the most empty. They know that truth rarely announces itself with fanfare. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it simply exists while everyone else flails in performative chaos. By remaining silent, Sigma females are not absent. They are observing, processing, and choosing precisely when their voice will carry impact. This kind of silence is a power move. It forces others to reveal themselves. When everyone else is screaming for attention, a calm observer becomes an unshakable presence. People overexpose themselves in the noise, showing motives, insecurities, and weaknesses they never intended to display. Sigma females don't need to participate in the theatrics. They let others exhaust themselves while they stay grounded and collected. Public silence also allows them to protect their energy. Responding to every opinion, every drama, every provocation drains mental and emotional reserves. Most people don't realize how much power is wasted simply by reacting to the noise of the world. Sigma females conserve that power by speaking only when it matters, when their words can shift dynamics, not merely echo them. They are comfortable with being misunderstood or underestimated in the moment. They don't need immediate validation or agreement. The absence of a reaction is not weakness, it is strategy. It signals control, patience, and confidence that doesn't need constant affirmation. While others scramble for attention, Sigma females move deliberately. They know that staying quiet in the chaos doesn't erase them. It amplifies their presence for the moments that truly count. In a world obsessed with noise, silence becomes their strongest statement. Number 12. Not performing gratitude on command. Most people treat gratitude like a social obligation. They say thank you even when they don't feel it, just to avoid awkwardness, guilt, or judgment. It's a reflex, a performance meant to smooth over relationships and keep other people comfortable. The problem is, this kind of automatic politeness often cheapens the feeling itself, turning genuine appreciation into a chore. Sigma females don't operate on reflex. They give thanks only when it comes from a place of sincerity. If they feel gratitude, they express it fully. If they don't, they remain silent, and they do it without guilt. They don't believe in faking feelings to make others feel better, and they don't allow themselves to be pressured into performing emotional gestures for the sake of appearances. This approach unsettles people who are used to compliance. Some may interpret it as coldness or ingratitude, but Sigma females see it differently. They respect authenticity over comfort. They understand that a forced thank you is more insulting than silence because it communicates dishonesty. Genuine gratitude, they know, has power. It is meaningful because it is chosen, not automatic. By refusing to perform, Sigma females maintain control over their emotional expression. They protect themselves from the subtle manipulation of expectation, the idea that they owe someone appreciation simply because it is convenient for that person. They know their feelings are theirs alone, not a social currency to be spent on demand. This doesn't mean they are unkind or unappreciative. On the contrary, their gratitude, when given, is rare and impactful. It carries weight precisely because it is not handed out lightly. People learn that acknowledgement from a Sigma female is not empty. It is deliberate, intentional, and sincere. While others constantly shape their responses to avoid conflict or guilt, Sigma females move through interactions with integrity. They don't dilute their emotions to satisfy someone else's comfort. Silence in the absence of true gratitude is a statement. They value honesty above appearances, and that makes every genuine thank you they give resonate far louder than 1,000 polite lies. Sigma females live by a code most people don't even understand. While the world scrambles in fear of judgment, rejection, and uncertainty, They move with quiet precision, refusing to be owned by expectations, labels, or shallow obligations. They don't chase validation, bend for comfort, or cling to security at the expense of authenticity. Every decision they make, from walking away from love that limits them, to remaining silent in chaos, to refusing power that cages them, is guided by one unshakable principle: self-sovereignty. They embrace what others fear. They thrive in ambiguity, endure invisible battles, and allow false narratives to breathe without losing themselves. They set boundaries unapologetically, knowing that disappointing someone is far better than losing themselves in the process. They are real, raw, and deliberate, never performing, never compromising their core for someone else's fragile ego. What makes Sigma females extraordinary is not just their independence, but their mastery over themselves. They don't react impulsively, they don't over-explain, and they don't perform emotions to soothe others. Every silence, every refusal, every step away from what doesn't serve them is a declaration. Their life is theirs to command, and they will never apologize for protecting it. In a world built on noise, expectations, and superficial connections, Sigma females stand apart. They are fearless not because they lack emotion or vulnerability, but because they understand which battles are worth fighting, which doors are worth opening, and which chains are worth breaking. They live unapologetically, unapparent to social pressures, and unrivaled in their quiet strength. To witness a Sigma female in her element is to see freedom embodied, disciplined, deliberate, and untouchable. And while most will fear the things she walks through, she doesn't just survive, she thrives. If you found this insight into Sigma females powerful, don't just watch, take action. Subscribe to the channel to stay connected to content that reveals the truths most people are too afraid to face. Like this video if it challenged the way you think, comment below with your thoughts or experiences, and share it with someone who needs to understand what it really means to live unapologetically. Every click, every comment, every share helps spread the wisdom and inspires more people to embrace strength on their own terms.